This video presents some important new discoveries made about the Cydonia face and D&M Pyramid on Mars, which confirm that these objects are intelligently engineered structures and not products of nature. A large horizontal structure which appeared to be a sculpture of a face was discovered in the Cydonia region of Mars in Viking 1 orbiter images in 1976 by D. Pietro and Molinar. These two individuals were computer scientists working on the Viking imagery at the Goddard Space Flight Center. D. Pietro and Molinar also later found in the images a large pyramid just south of the face, which was called the D&M Pyramid by Richard Hoagland in 1983 to honor its discoverers. Ever since the face on Cydonia was found, NASA has invested a lot of resources in trying to convince us that the face is simply a natural mesa. And NASA describes the D&M Pyramid as simply a remnant of the bedrock that was left behind as erosion slowly degraded the terrain along a zone between highlands and lowlands. Is there a way to prove their artificiality that counters NASA's arguments and goes beyond the work of earlier investigators? In 2006, a high-resolution image of the Cydonia region was taken by the Mars Express satellite of the European Space Agency. This image is of high enough quality to permit the re-examination of the geometry of the face and D&M pyramid with much greater precision than the images that Erol, Torun, and Richard Hoagland used to develop their tetrahedral models of the Cydonia artifacts. I decided to apply the techniques that I had used for the detection of the artificiality of Martian topography, techniques that I had developed after more than 15 years of making thousands of precise measurements and writing 4 books on the subject. I used the Mars Orbiter Laser Altimeter maps for these studies since they provided a reliable and accurate database with a minimum of tampering by NASA. However, their pixel size was of the order of 0.667 kilometers, so objects as small as the Cydonia face and D&M pyramid could not be studied with these maps. I have found that artificiality on Mars can be detected by examining bearing angles, distances, shapes, and coordinates. If any of these properties can be found to tightly correspond to important sacred geometry quantities, then the object is highly likely to be artificial. If 2 or more of these measures produce highly meaningful numbers, then artificiality is pretty well confirmed beyond a reasonable doubt. So let's start with the face. Mark Carlotto has already done an excellent job of verifying the features that justify interpreting the Cydonia face structure as an intelligently constructed sculpture of a face rather than a random natural occurrence of topographical shapes that resemble a face. What I want to do is to first accurately measure the angle that the face has with respect to a line drawn in a perfect north-south direction. This is called a bearing angle, and I will measure it in the counterclockwise direction from due north. It turns out to be exactly 30 degrees. This is a huge signal of artificiality, since 30 degrees is half the size of the 60-degree angles in an equilateral triangle. From my experience, the Martian architects often use divisions by a power of 2 of the principal angles of a geometric shape to reflect the geometric shape itself. For instance, the angle of 108 degrees found in the pentagram was often substituted with 54 degrees or 27 degrees to refer to the pentagram shape. Now let's fit the face to a rectangle from which we can measure its length and width, since the European Space Agency image has a calibration line for distance. Note how well the face sits inside the rectangle. The goodness of fit of the east and west sides to a perfect rectangle is another indication of artificiality. I measured the length to be 2.7866 kilometers and the width to be 2.0307 kilometers. Since the kilometer is a terrestrial unit of measure, I converted these figures to Martian kilometers. I discovered the existence of Martian kilometers a few years ago and have published a chapter describing this unit of measurement in my book, Intelligent Mars 1, Sacred Geometry of the Mountains, Did Da Vinci Know? The ancient Martians used the Martian kilometer to place the moons of Mars at meaningful distances from the center of the planet. A Martian kilometer is exactly equal to the equatorial radius of Mars divided by 2 raised to the 12th power and is equal to 0.829148 kilometers. Converted to Martian kilometers, the length of the face is equal to 3.3608 Martian kilometers, and the width is equal to 2.4491 Martian kilometers. The length is very close to the sacred geometry formula of 2e over phi equals 3.3600 Martian kilometers, and the width is very close to the sacred geometry formula of the square root of 2 times the square root of 3 equals 2.4495 Martian kilometers. Note that the square root of 2 times the square root of 3 is equal to the square root of 6, which is a simpler formula. This is the first indication that I have found that the Martian kilometer was used to measure out objects on the planet itself. So now there is evidence for its use on Mars as well as on Earth, as was shown in my video, Huge Discovery. Stonehenge uses sacred geometry to harmonize with the cosmos. The ratio of the length to width of the face is 1.3722. This is very close to the sacred geometry formula of the square root of 5 divided by phi equals 1.3820. This is another indication of intelligent design. The determination of the coordinates of the face was very difficult since there are conflicting numbers given from reported values. I therefore made my estimates by carefully examining the Mars Orbiter Laser Altimeter map of Cydonia in conjunction with the European Space Agency image, even though there are very few pixels representing the face and D&M Pyramid on the Mars Orbiter Laser Altimeter map. I used this map since its data are trustworthy. From my best estimates, I found the center of the face to be 49.3439 degrees east of the Sharonov Tower prime meridian. This number is less than 15 seconds of a degree from the value of 5 pi squared equals 49.3480 degrees east. I found the latitude of the center of the face to be 40.7453 degrees north, which is 1.7 minutes of a degree from the value of 15e equals 40.7742 degrees north. In contrast to the center of the face, I found that the coordinates of the northeast corner of the fitted rectangle were exactly equal to these sacred geometry formulae. This shows that the architects intended the northeast corner of the rectangle to mark the coordinates of the face rather than the center of the face. Thus, the fitted rectangle is an important part of the face's architecture, even though it is only virtual. This is very consistent with my discovery on Mars of what I termed participatory sacred geometry, where the observer is given basic information, but is expected to fill in the blanks to complete a geometric structure, in this case, a rectangle. Participatory sacred geometry is discussed in my book, Intelligent Mars 2. Code of the Craters. Now let's look at the D&M Pyramid. The D&M Pyramid has in the past been regarded as a 5-sided pyramid. This concept arose from earlier pictures of the pyramid, which seemed to show a pyramid edge traveling mostly in a northerly direction from the pyramid center, thus showing 4 edges of the pyramid. A 5th edge was postulated to be buried out of sight in the rubble of the northeastern side of the pyramid, thus giving rise to the theory of 5 sides. Its position was determined by early investigators by reflecting a mirror image of the northwestern pyramid edge about the assumed northerly pyramid edge. The edges of the southern face were then fitted so that they connected to the vertex of the northern faces. Erol Torun estimated that the angles made by the edges of the northern faces are 60 degrees, and the angle made by the edges of the southern face is 69.4 degrees. Torun also estimated that the bearing angle of the west side of the pyramid was 0 degrees, and hence aligned with a meridian line. This whole arrangement led to the belief that the D&M Pyramid pointed to the face. However, upon looking at the high-resolution European Space Agency image of the D&M Pyramid, we can see that what was interpreted as a pyramid edge is actually a borderline between damaged and undamaged portions of the north side of the pyramid. The misinterpretation of this borderline as being a corner edge between two northern faces also led to the concept that the pyramid traveled northwards well beyond the northern portion of the west side of the pyramid. What is needed then is a completely fresh look at the pyramid by careful examination of the high-resolution European Space Agency image. Here we can readily see that a major portion of the southern half of the east side has been completely blasted away and may have been mostly vaporized by an energy weapon, much like the major portion of the material in the Twin Towers was vaporized away in the 9/11 attack in New York. The northern half of the east side looks like it was heavily melted by the attack and hence cannot be used to determine the shape of the original structure. Our information about the shape and size of the pyramid has to come from the western half and from the south side of the pyramid. The first thing that I did was measure the bearing angle of the northwest edge of the pyramid. It turned out to be 54 degrees in the counterclockwise direction. This is 1/2 the size of the angle between the star points of a pentagram, or of the interior angles of the pentagon, which is in the middle of the pentagram. I next determined that the bearing angle of the southwest edge of the pyramid is 45 degrees in the clockwise direction. If we assume that the pyramid was symmetrical about its north-south midline, we can draw in the southeast edge of the pyramid, which was present before the destruction. Only a small portion of this edge now exists near the top of the pyramid, but it can be used to align the rest of the line for the southeast edge. This line also enables us to determine the position of the north-south midline of the pyramid, which can now be drawn in between the south face and the north face. Next, the base of the south side can be fitted with a perfectly horizontal line to determine the southeast and southwest corners of the pyramid. It can be seen from this fitting procedure that a substantial part of the eastern portion of the south side of the pyramid is missing. It can also be seen that the south side forms half of a square with base angles of 45 degrees and an apex angle of 90 degrees. Since we now know the position of the north-south midline of the pyramid, we can now draw in the mirror image of the northwest edge of the pyramid with a bearing angle of 54 degrees in the clockwise direction. All that remains to be done for the north side of the pyramid is to draw the line for the base of the side. It is too faint to be seen in the European Space Agency image, so I turned to the Mars Orbiter camera plus Themis mosaic image to see if it could be found there. Sure enough, the northern boundary of the pyramid can be seen as a distinct line which meanders a bit either because of erosion or because of silt buildup from Martian dust storms. I found that it aligns with the bottom of the northwest corner of the pyramid. Returning to the European Space Agency image, I drew in the horizontal line for the northern boundary of the pyramid, aligning it to the bottom of the northwest corner of the pyramid. This now completes the north side of the pyramid, which forms a triangle with base angles of 36 degrees and an apex angle of 108 degrees. Since 36 degrees is the size of the angles of the star points of a pentagram, and 108 degrees is the size of the angle between the star points of a pentagram, the north side of the D&M pyramid is an obvious reference to the pentagram, just like the south side of the pyramid is an obvious reference to the square. The isosceles triangle formed is called a golden gnomon, since the two equal sides are in golden ratio to the base. That is, one of the sides divided by the base is equal to the inverse of the golden mean phi. There are 5 golden gnomons in a pentagram. Note that the apexes of the north and south sides do not meet at a common point, but are separated by a straight line forming the top of the pyramid rather than a single point. This is a major departure from previous attempts to fit the pyramid to straight lines. I next attempted to fit the western border of the pyramid. This edge is poorly defined in all of the images, and has to be determined from the bottom limits of the northwest and southwest pyramid edges. I found that a line with a bearing angle of 4.398 degrees in the counterclockwise direction gave the best results. Note that this is not 0 degrees as was assumed in previous attempts to fit the pyramid by some investigators. The value of 4.398 is equal to the product of phi times e, which honors both of these irrational numbers. Assuming symmetry, I now added the east side of the pyramid using a line with a bearing angle of 4.398 degrees in the clockwise direction. I then proceeded to measure the distance between the northern and southern boundaries of the pyramid. It worked out to 3.647 kilometers. In terms of Martian kilometers, it works out to 4.398 Martian kilometers, the exact same number as the bearing angle of the western border of the pyramid, showing a remarkable symmetry. Hence, the quantity of phi times e must have been very important to the Martian civilization, and may allude to an important quantity in physics as well as in sacred geometry. The coordinates of the D&M Pyramid are also very interesting. I measured the longitude of the midline of the pyramid to be 350.4400 degrees east. When this is translated into sacred degrees east of the dagger midline prime meridian, it works out to 161.8141 sacred degrees east, which is about 39 seconds of a degree more than the value of 105 sacred degrees east. The dagger midline prime meridian is one of the ancient prime meridians that I discovered to exist on the planetary surface. I also found that the Martians used sacred degrees in addition to the degrees of our 360-degree system. One sacred degree is equal to 1.25 regular degrees. A full discussion of ancient Martian prime meridians and degree systems can be seen in my Brighteon video, NASA's Big Secret, The Topography of Mars is Artificial, Episode 2, Prime Meridians. I could not find any location on the D&M Pyramid that has a latitude close to a meaningful sacred geometry formula. The northern boundary of the pyramid is slightly more than 1/1 of a degree less than the planetographic latitude value of 15 degrees north. But this seemed to be too large an error for architects who would want to precisely locate an important structure to a meaningful latitude. I was puzzled by this for quite some time when it finally dawned on me that perhaps the D&M Pyramid was synchronized to a virtual geometric shape, as was done for the northeast corner of the virtual rectangle fitting the face. So what virtual geometric shape can be constructed from the geometry of the D&M Pyramid? It turns out that two virtual geometric shapes can readily be constructed: a square from the south face and a pentagram from the north face. The planetographic latitude of the southern vertex of the virtual square was found to be only 2.6 seconds of a degree more than 40.6656 equals 8 phi times pi degrees north. The planetographic latitude of the northern star point of the virtual pentagram was measured to be only 2.1 seconds of a degree more than the square root of 5 divided by pi radians, equals 40.7810 degrees north. Now that's a lot more accurate. So here we have two more splendid examples of participatory sacred geometry. In addition, the planetographic latitude of the star point is only 26 seconds of a degree more than the value of 40.7742 equals 15 degrees north. So this formula was probably also intended. Note that this is the same latitude value as the northeast corner of the rectangle fitting the face, which is in planetocentric coordinates. Hence, the face and D&M Pyramid create a matched pair of latitudes for the value of 15 degrees north. The northeast corner of the rectangle fitting the face in planetocentric coordinates, and the northern star point of the virtual pentagram in planetographic coordinates. Planetographic coordinates take into account the fact that the planet is an oblate spheroid, while planetocentric coordinates treat the planet as a sphere. We have seen the use of matched coordinates before in my Brighteon video, NASA's Big Secret, The Topography of Mars is Artificial, Episode 3, Ulysses Tholis. In the northern crater of the Ulysses Tholis mountain, there are two mounds which have the latitude of pi degrees north, one in planetographic coordinates and the other in planetocentric coordinates. Note that pi degrees north is written with 2 degree symbols to indicate that it is in big degrees. Big degrees is another coordinate system used by the ancient Martians. 1 big degree is equal to 1.125 regular degrees. By my calculations, I found that the D&M Pyramid is slightly south of the value for the arctan of E over pi equals 40.8682 degrees north in planetographic coordinates, which Erol, Torun, and Richard Hoagland measured for the center of the D&M Pyramid. It is also well south of the planetographic latitude value of the arctan of the square root of 3 over 2 equals 40.8934 degrees north. This latitude value formed part of their justification for the tetrahedral geometry hypothesis for the Cydonia structures. As well, the concept that the D&M pyramid point to the face is based on the non-existent fifth edge of the pyramid. As a matter of fact, I have found that the 4 edges of the pyramid do not point to any significant structures in the Cydonia region. Hence, I have found little to support the tetrahedral geometry hypothesis for the face and D&M pyramid structures, despite it being an excellent theory. Torun and Hoagland also estimated that the distance between the face and the northern tip of the D&M pyramid was equal to the polar diameter of Mars divided by 360. This was based on the northward extension of the non-existent fifth side of the pyramid. So it would seem from this that the face and D&M pyramid are not related to one another. However, my measurement of the distance between the center of the face and the apex of the southern side of the D&M pyramid is only 20 meters less than 1,000th of the equatorial circumference of Mars. The bearing angle of this line is only 9 seconds of a degree more than the sacred geometry formula of 8 pi divided by E equals 9.2458 degrees in the clockwise direction. So the two structures are indeed related. They are also related in the planetographic and planetocentric fits to 15 E degrees north. In summary, we now have plenty of additional evidence to support the artificiality of the Cydonia face and the D&M pyramid. The face has been shown to have 1. A counterclockwise bearing angle of 30 degrees, 2. A length to width ratio very close to the square root of 5 divided by phi, 3. A length closely approximating the sacred geometry formula of 2e over phi equals 3.3600 Martian kilometers, 4. A width closely approximating the sacred geometry formula of the square root of 6 equals 2.4495 Martian kilometers, 5. Of longitude of 5 pi squared equals 43.3480 degrees east of the Sharonov Tower prime meridian for the northeast corner of the fitted rectangle. 6. A latitude of 15e equals 40.7742 degrees north in planetocentric coordinates for the northeast corner of the fitted rectangle. And 7. A distance of 2 pi r over 1,000 kilometers and a clockwise bearing angle of 8 pi over e degrees from the apex of the south side of the D&M pyramid to the center of the face. The D&M pyramid has been shown to have 1. 4 sides rather than 5 sides, 2. A northwest edge with a counterclockwise bearing angle of 54 degrees, 3. A southwest edge with a clockwise bearing angle of 45 degrees, 4. A southern face which creates 1/2 of a square, 5. A northern face which creates a golden gnomon, 6. A western boundary with a counterclockwise bearing angle of phi times e equals 4.398 degrees, 7. A north-south length of phi times e equals 4.398 Martian kilometers, 8. a midline longitude close to 100 phi sacred degrees east of the dagger midline prime meridian. 9. A planetographic latitude of the square root of 5 divided by pi radians equals 40.7810 degrees north, and a planetographic latitude close to 15e equals 40.7742 degrees north for the northern star point of a virtual pentagram. And 10. A planetographic latitude close to 8 phi times pi equals 40.6656 degrees north for the southern vertex of a virtual square. The conformity of the face and D&M pyramid to such a multitude of sacred geometry formulae is impossible to have occurred by random acts of nature. Hence, these findings overwhelmingly demonstrate that Mars has hosted intelligent life in the past and probably still does today. Although the original, more advanced civilization seems to have been defeated in a devastating war, which I discuss in my Brighteon video, Date of Defeat of the Original Civilization on Mars, a Scientific Estimate. It is time to put NASA's denials to rest once and for all about intelligent life on Mars. Thank you for watching.